ScoliTalk. Today's guest is Dr. Brian Dovorany from Scolismart, Wisconsin. Dr. Dovorany invented the Scoliosis Torso Trainer, which is being used in over 50 clinics around the world. He received his doctorate in chiropractic from Palmer College of Chiropractic in 1997 and specializes in the reduction and stabilization of scoliosis.
I'm here at Scolismart, Wisconsin with Dr. Brian Dovorany, and we're talking about auto response training.
A cantilever is essentially something when you use external weight or a leverage arm away from the body that causes the body to react to it when balancing. And then we just tested, different variants of it, and we're on the third adaptation of it now. And I would imagine that the fourth one is right around the corner.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Again, there's two components to what I do and what the theoretical principles are of kind of the Scolismart aspects of how we're doing this. Is number one, we need to have the ability to change the spine through flexibility. So the spine has to have the ability to elongate. If it's stuck and rigid and won't do that, and we test it and it won't go anywhere, there's no amount of muscle or firing that you can put in there that's going to do anything. So you can do anything you want from an exercise perspective. If that ain't moving, it's not moving. Okay. Then the second aspect is if you do have flexibility in there and it can elongate, how do you impact that? Through response training. And response training simply is stimulating the body to self-correct. Okay, providing an irritant, so to speak, for it to have to figure out. Okay, through adaptation.
Okay.
So, as far as the response training goes, basically, you're taking a person, putting them on an unstable environment, trying to get the muscles firing just alone by creating instability, and that's all going to be automatic. So our balance system's trained to do that. We don't have to think about it. It's not like I'm going, okay, muscle in my left calf, fire because I'm gonna fall. We don't think about it. Our body just is boom, right on top of that, doing firing all kinds of stuff to make sure that you don't land on your butt. Okay? So the first step is, again, instability, and the second step is okay, let's try to shove you off the thing and have your body respond back. Okay, so if I start pushing against somebody when they're on that balance stick, automatically they're going to start fighting that and contracting more and more muscles to counter the pressure.
The setup for auto response training varies for each patient. It's not like a cookie cutter technique. So what goes into deciding a setup for a patient?
I think the main ingredient to deciding what you want to start with a patient is going to be based off of curve type. Typically lower torso curves, lumbar, thoracolumbar curves are going to require more of a trunk shift response, which simply means that we'll probably use some form of compressive load versus something that apexes a little bit higher up, like a thoracic or a higher up thoracolumbar curve. That's going to require more elongation. So there's different start points with different cases. So it's deciding whether or not you need to do trunk shift first or just elongation right away. And that's where you pick your basic tools, so to speak. And then you have to go from there into the physics of each cantilever, and that is basically choosing diameter of the fulcrum part. So anywhere from a 3-inch all the way up to 8 inches is basically where we have our range of fulcrum. And then from there you have to pick weight. So, and it's very temperamental, so the weight is very important to get the right type of response that you're looking for.
Can you explain the age-related differences when it comes to setting goals and expectations for treatment outcomes, and what type of correction do you generally see in young patients versus adult patients that are good candidates for the Scolismart program?
Well, again, when we kind of look at blocks of age groups in patients, there's going to be several different key points and things that you're looking at. if we start with a younger age group of pre-pubertal growth, which is going to be basically your 6 to 10 range, and again classified as JIS or juvenile versus adolescent scoliosis, that particular grouping is going to, and again statistically has responded very, very well. Those are kind of the eye-popping, crooked to straight type x-rays that we see. I've had cases as high as 48 degrees go to single digits and sustain it. And that's again in a grouping that is before you're reaching that next stage of vertical height gain and puberty, which is going to be your main AIS cases. The reason that those younger kids respond so wonderfully is because they've had the curve for less time, so there's less neurological and soft tissue resistance to change. Highly flexible curves, nervous system isn't ingrained into that patterning so much, so you get some really eye-popping stuff with that age group. They're also fun to work with because they tend to also do their stuff. They're in an age group where they listen and just go home and do it. So it's great. The next group is going to be the hardest group to work with, which is going to be your RISR 0-1-2 range when you're in pubertal growth. Usually starts in females around 11. So your kind of age range of 11 to 15, 11 to 14 is rapid growth phase. These cases are very difficult to work with because you're dealing with curves that already are in a category of growth progression. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to fight and work with growth progression as they gain height rapidly, okay, as curves are larger. So typically the main goal is to basically halt progression with this group. You're not necessarily looking for reduction of the curve during that phase. Okay. So I'd say that for us and for the type of protocol that we're doing is to try to eliminate rigid brace wear, have them do something conservative and easy that's not going to affect their lifestyle, and still hang on to not getting worse during that phase. Once they get out of that phase and you start to get into a little bit more mature spine, mm-hmm, less rapid growth, the goal again then becomes reduction. So you're going to get into basically the main formula with all people out. Basically they get to about a RISR 3 or higher is curve flexibility and then response to the equipment as far as the response training goes. So it all, for adults, it's going to boil down to basically how rigid is the spine and does it have the flexibility to respond to exercise and how much flexibility can we get during the camp. Okay. And then what kind of tools are we using to create that elongation effect. So adults can respond great if they have a very flexible spine and we can get the elongation in there with the equipment. So those are kind of the key ingredients.
Do you have a free consult? Are they able to send their x-ray to you? How can they get in touch with you and find out?
I think, yeah, it's really easy to do actually. If you go to either treatingscoliosis.com or Scolismart.com, the main page of the website has 3 easy steps to basically find out whether or not you're a candidate. We like basically you can request information. We'll send you a whole information packet that kind of explains the protocol, explains the approach. The next step from there is to upload an x-ray right on the website. You can do that very simply by taking a picture of your x-ray on your computer. If you have it on your phone or whatever, you can just use a JPEG, whatever normal files that you take with a camera, with a photograph, and just upload it right onto the website. Pick the clinic of your choice, and you'll get a phone call basically saying when you guys want to talk with us. And then we'll do a free phone consultation and find out what's going on and see if we can help.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds pretty easy.
It is pretty easy.
The last question.
Okay.
And I'm sure you get this question a lot. So inquiring minds want to know. So what's the plans for the future of Scolismart, and do you have any plans to expand or add, train additional doctors?
Absolutely. Scolismart is a growing entity. It's something that is constantly changing and adapting to new technology. Maybe the things that we're doing right now necessarily won't be the things clinically that we're doing in 3 years. We're always working with more and more with genetics and with human physiology, moving in that direction, as well as clinically working with different types of therapeutic responses with patients. So I think we're going to grow in a bunch of different areas. We'll probably grow from a theoretical and kind of applied science category. We'll also grow in a direction of expanding the knowledge base to other doctors, and then eventually providing more locations for people to have access to our approach.
That's great.
And time-wise, I'm not really sure what it's going to take, and I do know that it will happen. I just don't know when.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, and I certainly appreciate the work that you do in changing a lot of lives.
Well, thanks a lot, Marcia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching ScoliTalk. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube to be notified about future episodes. You can also find me on the crookedlifekc.blogspot.com and on Facebook at The Crooked Life. Have a fabulous day, everyone.